Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Talktagon. I am one of the three co-hosts today. As you can see, my name is Ty O'Keefe. And today we're going to be talking about the UFC 230 card on Saturday. We're going to get in depth, as Craig Allen likes to do, as always. And I'm joined by him from the Fight Night Picks podcast. And we're also joined by Kristen King of Fansided MMA. And we're thrilled to have all three of us. This is our first episode doing this. So please, anybody watching this after the fact, bear with us. We're going to work through some kinks. And yeah, it should be fun. So I don't know where you want to start. I know Craig likes to kind of work his way down to the prelim card. And I will let you start it off because you're the UFC 230 expert on the panel, apparently.
So now I've got the hype to live up to. You already billed me so high. So first fight on the card, you've got a heavyweight matchup between Adam Vixarek and Marcus Rogerio de Lima. And looking like de Lima could get cut if he loses this fight. We've seen him fight at heavyweight before. He's fought at light heavyweight. Now he's moving up. He missed weight in his last fight by 4 pounds. Fought OSP, lost OSP. Striking's kind of his thing. Vixarek obviously got the win by omoplata in his last fight against Arjan Buller, which is a big surprise. I mean, Buller looked great to start that fight. He also looked great last week here in Moncton, New Brunswick. So that was good to see. But I'm really enjoying it. I'm really looking forward to this. I mean, Vixarek on a 9-fight win streak. His last loss was against Marcin Tybura back in 2011. Tybura had a lot of success before coming to the UFC. He's one of those sneaky guys. When I watch him in the UFC, I wonder what's he going to do. It looked like he was going to beat Derek Lewis until he got hit. We'll get onto that one later. But I'm looking forward to this fight. And I mean, like I said, if de Lima ends up losing, I could definitely see him getting cut. I mean, he's 4-3 in his UFC tenure, hasn't fought overly consistently in the last few years.
Yeah, and that's the thing with these early prelim cards. There's so many people who are really just kind of trying to prove themselves and see if they can, earn a spot longer. I would agree that if de Lima doesn't do well, I think he's going to be in trouble. He needs this. Moving forward, a guy like that, I really think he's lucky to get this fight. He was lucky to get the St. Preux fight in my mind. So, Kristen, are you agree with that assessment? Do you think de Lima needs to do well in order to stay on the roster?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But I think that this is a really tough fight for him to take. And it's going to be difficult for him to win because we know that his opponent, he's great on the ground. And de Lima hasn't really proved himself to be that great. I think that his attempts on the ground are very subpar, and that is a very, very weak area that his opponent can definitely exploit here. So I feel like this is a very tough fight. It could be one of those fights where it's like, well, if you lose, you're on your way out anyway. So yeah, I think he definitely needs this win, but it's going to be a hard win for him to get considering his background. He has amazing knockout power. Don't get me wrong there, but if this fight does go to the ground, which I feel like it will, I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a submission loss for him.
Yeah, and I think that makes total sense. Sorry, Ty. I mean, you look at de Lima, you talk about the finish rate, 11 knockout wins, 14 of 15 by finish. Vixarek, 9 of 10 by finish, 6 submissions, and he's trending between a -225 and a -250 favored in that fight. And I'll bring up the odds, as we go along further. Ty, I'm sure you probably have had a chance to look at them. We talked about them a little bit today, but yeah, in this one, I got Vixarek in this fight.
I'm gonna go against the grain here. I don't know. I just have a feeling about de Lima. I don't know why. I think he's gonna knock him out before it gets to the ground, and I think it's gonna be one of those fights gonna go about 45 seconds. But as always, I'm gonna make everybody. I know you're going against me. Who's your pick in this fight, Kristen?
How do I pronounce his last name?
Vixarek.
Yeah, Craig's the resident expert on that.
Oh my God, I can listen to him talk all day. He knows how to do it better than I can. So yes, my pick is Vixarek in this fight, probably by submission. I can definitely see de Lima getting tired, and then once it hits the ground, a submission will definitely open up.
And height and reach is a big thing in that fight. I mean, Vixarek, 4 inches of height, 6 inches of reach, and 3 on leg reach, which is something, that's a stat that the UFC doesn't normally publish on fight night. PFL does a really good job of it, and I know the fans on Twitter and social media really like that. So make that a point in this fight. But in the next one between Kelleher and Jackson, that could be a fight of the night type fight. And you look at the height and reach, Jackson's got 3 inches of height, 9 inches of reach. You never see that. So I'm really looking forward to that fight.
Yeah, and they have his leg reach listed as 0.
Yeah.
So, does that give you any confidence in the stats of his arm? I mean, should we really then believe that his arm reach is accurate in there too? I mean, 9 inches is pretty significant. Now, this is only his second fight, in the octagon, and he's coming off a loss. I mean, Montel Jackson. So he's in a position, as far as I'm concerned, you lose your UFC debut, I don't care how, you need to win that second fight. Absolutely. We've seen people get cut for less than that. And his opponent, it's hard because he's coming off a loss to a quality opponent, John Lineker, and that was what UFC 224, and but he has beat Renan Barão, and we all know what Renan Barão was able to do. I definitely like Keller in this fight, but yeah, Jackson's definitely coming into it way more to lose as far as I'm concerned. Do you agree with that, Kristen?
Yeah, I think so in a way, because I know Jackson came up from the Contender Series and stuff like that, and he didn't have that great of a debut. I think he lost a unanimous decision. So this fight is definitely, they're giving him a bone here because this guy, Keller, has taken on one of the prime guys at bantamweight and someone like Renan Barão, and he's shown that he can best those kinds of fighters. For me personally, I'm a little bit worried that maybe just aggression and wrestling from Keller will not be enough for Montel Jackson. He has that reach, he has that striking. So I'm a little bit worried that if Keller can't get in to possibly get a takedown, maybe in the later round, I feel like Jackson can go ahead and go to a smooth unanimous decision here.
See, I love that. She's so thorough with her analysis of why we're all wrong and someone else is going to win.
I try not
Craig,
to.
who do you like in this fight, Craig?
I mean, you look at the height and reach of Jackson. He looked good on the Contender Series. He did not look good in his debut against Ricky Simón. A lot of people were disappointed, myself included. I had picked Jackson in that fight. And you look at Brian Kelleher, and you mentioned Renan Barão, but you got to look at the guys that he fought before that. I mean, his whole way up, he's fought good talent, even his little tiny stint in Bellator when he took on Jimmy Rivera. So Andre Sukumtat, UFC Moncton, 2 wins over Julio Arce back-to-back, who's also on this card, and a win over Yuri Alcantara, who, I mean, he's looked great in some fights. He's looked terrible in some fights. And right now he's showing his age, but Kelleher does have the win there. He got knocked out by the hands of Stone, and I consider John Lineker one of the best guys in the bantamweight division. But it's kind of tough to tell. I mean, Kristen, I like your analysis too, and you look at the line. I mean, Kelleher's a slight underdog at plus 115, so I can understand taking Jackson for sure, especially the fact that he can finish a fight and he has the height and reach. But I mean, just the quality of talent, and you look all the way through Kelleher's career, it's been great. Top guys that he's fought, 19-9 overall record. I've got Kelleher in this one. I think he's just going to be able to outpoint, but I could also see him getting finished. I can definitely see that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely think this is Kelleher's fight to lose. Jackson, he's just coming in with a different mindset. Anybody loses their octagon debut, I think there's a different level of pressure that comes on you your second time out, just because you haven't done it, and everybody expects you to do well in your first fight, right? You're in the UFC now. So I think that's going to play a role. How about you guide us to our next fight, Mr. Allen?
You got Shane Burgos, a guy that I was so high on until he fought Calvin Kattar at UFC 220. I was sitting in the nosebleeds. I could not believe my eyes. I couldn't believe what happened. I mean, Calvin Kattar looked great, finished Shane Burgos, and now he's 10-1 instead of 11-0. He's taken on Kurt Holobaugh. Holobaugh's second time in the UFC, 17-5 with a 1-0 contest. You look at that strength of schedule. It's something that I like to talk about. I know Ty and a lot of football fans that might be paying attention. They kind of look at that, and you look at Burgos, 17 wins as a pro and as an amateur. Coming off that first lot, it's got to be tough. You look at the amateur wins. He beat Ricky Bandejas, who came out and looked like a world beater against James Gallagher and kind of silenced the critics there. You look at the guys that he fought in his pro career. Godofredo Pepe, who's now headlining Brave CF cards. Charles Rosa. So he's fought some decent competition, whereas Holobaugh, I mean, you look at his first taste in the UFC, it was against PFL featherweight finalists. We're going to see him on New Year's Eve, and Steven Seiler lost that fight. He's fought the likes of Desmond Green and Andre Harrison in Titan FC, which definitely means something. Titan's one of those leagues. We saw kind of Volkan Oezdemir. Oh, he was supposed to fight there. Now he's in the UFC. Now he's at the top. Now he's going down. But Kurt Holobaugh, it's so tough to try and gauge what he's going to bring into this fight. I mean, had the no contest on the Contender Series. got knocked out at UFC Boise in July. And you look at the odds, and I mean, where Burgos is trending around a -325 favorite, Hollabaugh is at 255, and there's a bit of mystique with Hollabaugh. I would shy away from picking Hollabaugh to win this fight.
Yeah, I'm with Burgos, but coming off that first loss, as you said, I mean, and you know, and Calvin Kattar finished him. So it's always interesting to see how someone bounces back from their first UFC loss. Kristen, are you on the consensus with Burgos as well, or are you going to back Hollabaugh?
Yeah, no, I'm behind Burgos 100%. I think obviously the first UFC loss is something that he's going to bounce back from, because it's not like he's an older guy or anything like that. And he seems to be mentally capable of handling his first loss in the UFC, because his talent just speaks for itself. And I think that he does really, really well against someone that can pressure him as much as Hollabaugh can. But I don't see any way that Kurt can win this fight unless it's by decision. But for me, I would have to pick Burgos by knockout, maybe in the first round, because he has the capability of doing that. I don't think that this loss is going to deter him in any way.
Yeah, and I could see why, you know, people would think that. I don't know. That's a tough fight. I'll tell you what, if you're gambling on Saturday, it's one of those fights that I would definitely stay away from. Definitely. Craig, so please continue to guide us through this card.
If you're a gambler, stay away from the last fight on the Fight Pass prelims. You got Matt, the steamroller Frivola, at 6-1, taking on Groovy Lando Venata, the best guy in the UFC to have a record of 1-3-1 no contest. I mean, all sorts of fight of the night, performance of the night type fights. He's a great guy to watch. He almost beat Tony Ferguson, which is obviously no small task. I mean, I consider Tony Ferguson to be possibly the best lightweight in the world right now. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. It's me that says that. But still, you look at the fights that Venata's had, the only one where he didn't get a bonus was against Drakkar Klose, and that one wasn't a great fight. You look at Frivola, got a win on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series Season 1, Episode 8. Arm triangle win over Jose Flores, followed it up by a knockout loss against Marco Polo Reyes in January. Marco Polo Reyes just got popped by USADA, 6-month suspension. Keep that in mind. Venata's at around a -275, Frivola +225, something like that. And I mean, a guy like Matt Frivola, you just have to wonder, I mean, is this a good matchup for him? I don't think so. I know a lot of MMA fans on social media, they love Groovy Lando Venata. It's a great nickname. He fights smart. He switches stances. And sadly, he knocked out the Canadian and former Fight Night Picks guest, John McDessie from Halifax. That was kind of sad. But yeah, I definitely have Venata in this fight.
You know, the thing is, Frivola's got one of those records too. You look at it, right? It's 6-0. It's perfect. And that's deceiving, especially for casual MMA fans. They think, oh, great idea. I'm going to back him. And then, you know, but
6-1, 6-1. He got knocked out in his last fight. And then the
that's right. Yeah,
website,
right.
Yeah, the UFC's
and
website.
I'm looking at his record and I see that yet I doesn't register. So yeah, you're right. Sorry. God, stop correcting me, encyclopedia.
Sorry.
You're going to ruin my career. So Frivola, though, he's done. Oh, here comes Clark Kent.
Yeah, you got to put your glasses on.
Now it's on now. Whatever. All right. So, but Frivola, he's done nothing, and that's the problem. And as you said, Venata has been in there. I just think this is too much too soon for Frivola. I really think he's in over his head, and Venata's going to put on a clinic as long as the fight lasts. So what do you think, Kristen?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, even though his record is really poor, Venata has shown that he can rise to the occasion. And even if he loses, he puts on a great performance. And I think with Frivola, there's a lot of unanswered questions. I think he has some solid wrestling, and his striking could use a little bit of work. But I think if Venata can keep the fight standing, he'll be able to punch him whenever he wants to, because I think that Frivola's style is a little bit more, it's unpolished in the striking area, at least. And I think Venata is a little bit more technical when he wants to be, when he's not being like flashy and stuff like that. But sometimes flashy is good because you never know what's going to happen, as we saw with the spinning back kick against McDessie. So you never saw that coming. And it's just one of those things where you never know. That's the X factor for Venata. He can hit you, he can strike you at any moment, and you would go down, and he has the power to back it up. As long as he can stay away from the fence and no takedowns, he's good to go. I feel like maybe Venata gets a unanimous decision here as well.
And one thing to add to that, and I was surprised to learn today, I know Mike Bond had tweeted it out earlier. This is the first time Lando Venata's fought outside of Jackson Wink in as long as I can remember. So we kind of have to wonder what's going to happen. And he left before the Donald Cerrone puppy mill allegations and that stupid video that came out the other day. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who he has in his corner and what he's going to look like, because like you said, he's capable of the spinning wheel kick knockouts. He's capable of greatness. I mean, he almost beat Tony Ferguson, but we'll have to see on Saturday.
Our next fight is a fight that I know, Craig, you've been talking about a little bit, and it's a fight 170 between Lyman Good and Ben Saunders. Obviously, Saunders is veteran of everything really at this point. He's been all over the place, and he's been back to this is the second stint in the UFC, I think. I know you talked about how this fight didn't happen in Bellator. Do you think that this Saunders fight is going to be something that fans are going to even want to watch, because he's kind of fallen off the map?
This is one of those fights that I live for. This is one of those fights that I get so excited about. I sent the tweet out today and like 2 people liked it. And I was so disappointed, because this is a fight that back in like 2011, 2012 should have happened in Bellator. I mean, Lyman Good and Ben Saunders were at the top of the welterweight division. You had Korshkov, you had Ben Askren, you had Douglas.
Okay, hold on. Lyman Good and Ben Saunders were never at the top of any welterweight division.
Yeah, they were. Okay? Lyman Good was the Bellator champ at one point.
I don't
Ben
care.
Saunders was winning.
I don't care. That's misinformation.
No, it's not. Ben Saunders has consistently fought top talent, whether it was in Bellator, here in the UFC. I mean, a win over Jake Ellenberger in 2018 doesn't mean as much as it might have a few years ago, but still a decent win. Now, I was disappointed.
You're overly generous this evening.
After that win, Ben Saunders came out and said, I'm going all the way for the belt. I don't know what you guys think I'm doing here, but I'm going to the top. And I kind of, I don't know. I mean, you're 20.
Kind of like Khabib's going to get $50 million for his next fight. Kind of like one of those claims.
Kind of like one of those. So you look at Lyman Good, like I said, won the Bellator belt in 2009, lost it in 2010 to Ben Askren, who's a guy that's been on everyone's minds, and they've been speaking about him a lot in the last little bit. You know, he took a 2-year break. We had talked about it today, but a little bit of a tainted supplement issue there. He sued a couple different supplement companies. He was out for a while, comes back, follows it up with a split decision loss to Zaleski dos Santos, who's out of his fight coming up in China. But that's one of those guys that I look at in that, you know, from 25 to 15, if they're not ranked, any of those guys on any given Saturday or Friday, I guess, could just skyrocket with a good win. And we saw Zaleski dos Santos in his last 2 fights. He's looked great. Got the split decision win over Good. Good leaves a lot to be desired for sure. I mean, Saunders is coming in, replacing Sultan Aliyev on short notice. Lost his last fight, Sergio Moraes. That was kind of a pick-em for me, but he lost by submission. And it's worth noting, Ben Saunders is a really, really good grappler and a good submission guy. So I was really surprised. It was actually his first submission loss of his pro career, and that was last month. So, I mean, Lyman Good, -700 favorite, Ben Saunders +500. You got to take Good. I mean, even based on physique.
You don't have to, and I'm not gonna. I'm taking Ben Saunders, and I don't know why, but I've always liked watching him fight. I guess it's because he's been one of the taller, lankier guys in the welterweight division. So he's kind of usually has some sort of reach advantage, to some degree. I don't know. You're right, though. His ground game is severely underrated, and a lot of people forget that. But I like Saunders to win, and I don't know. Kristen, what do you think?
I'm actually going with Craig here. I'm going to pick Lyman Good.
Surprise.
Good choice.
I'm sorry. I'm a little bit worried about Saunders. He's not that old, and I don't want to say it like that. But he is getting to that point of his career where I don't think that he can stand and trade with someone for 3 rounds, and especially Lyman Good, who has that knockout power. And I believe that Ben Saunders has the longer reach in this fight.
Yeah.
But does he? Okay. I just don't see him standing and trading with Lyman. I think he's going to try and take it down, but I don't think Lyman is going to allow that. And I could definitely see a knockout maybe in the 1st or 2nd round.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong on that assessment at all. I don't know. It's one of those tough fights to call. Anyways, moving on. Next fight, another featherweight matchup. Was that our first one on the card? Anyways, Shaman Moraes fighting Julio Arce. And Craig, I know, again, you've been diving really deep on this prelim card. This is another fight that I haven't heard much about.
I haven't heard enough about it. Julio Arce's looked pretty good in the UFC or on the Contender Series. He looked great. His 2 losses back-to-back to Kelleher. And then if you look at Moraes, he lost to Marlon Moraes back in World Series of Fighting and Zabit Magomedsharipov back in November. And Ty froze. Kristen, I don't think you froze. We're going to keep going. But
Sure.
yeah, you look at Moraes. He beat Matt Sales at UFC 227. Multiple illegal infractions. It's not going to say that anywhere you read it, but if you go back and watch it, it was kind of a dirty fight. I was surprised the point wasn't taken. He ended up winning it by decision. I know Sales was disappointed with that decision. Arce, 7-fight win streak. 2 since Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. Beat Dan Ige, UFC 225. Get to see that. Beat the lesser of the Tamors. He beat Daniel back in June. And we're talking odds. I mean, Arce heavy favorite, -340, -400. And Moraes plus 275 to plus 300. And he looks just like the cute convict there. Jeremy Meeks looks just like him.
I never actually thought that guy was cute.
Wow, yeah.
It's just one of those things. But yeah, I mean, in this fight, this is actually one of the fights that I had a really hard time picking a winner here because I feel like Moraes has a little bit better striking. But Arce is also, he's always improving in his striking. And I think that what it really comes down to in this fight is whether or not he can get the takedown, but also utilize those strikes to set something up. So this, for me, I can't even pick a winner because it could go either way, to be honest.
It's a tough one. We lost Ty. Now there's all sorts of noise, but we'll see what happens, and we'll keep going with the card. But yeah, Moraes could definitely finish the fight easily. I just think Arce, yeah, he's better on the feet, and if he can set something up, like you said, that's the way to go. Next fight, I'm sure you're into it because this was supposed to be your main event, kind of maybe half of it. We'll see what happens. But top women's fight, you got number 4, Sijara Eubanks, taking on number 7, Roxanne Modafferi. I want to talk about the odds because I thought about taking a screen cap and putting it on Twitter like I do sometimes. But then I thought people are going to attack me and get mad about it, so I didn't. Eubanks, -600, Modafferi plus 450. It doesn't make sense to me. Does it make sense to you?
A little bit, I guess, because I believe they fought in the Ultimate Fighter that one season. Yeah. I can't remember what season it was. And I believe Sijara won the 2-round decision. I can kind of see the same thing happening here. I just feel like Sijara is the stronger fighter. She's definitely the stronger wrestler here. And if she can get her hands on Modafferi, it's just an overwhelming amount of power when someone like Sijara is on top of you. So I don't know how much Roxanne has done to maybe combat that or fix those problems that she had in the first fight, but I don't really see much of a difference here. So the odds definitely don't shock me. I was going to pick Eubanks as well.
I mean, if you look at her record, whether it's 4-2, whether it's 3-2, it's definitely deceiving. And when she was kind of given the title shot at one point, everybody kind of thought, well, whoa, take a step back. She hasn't fought enough as a pro. But at the same time, it's been against top competition, like you said, Modafferi on the Ultimate Fighter. And I mean, Modafferi looked really good in her last fight. She got the win over Barb Honchak. She didn't win the title when she fought in the finale against Nico Montano. I'm going to take Modafferi in this one. I think she just continues to grow. Her striking's getting better and better with every fight. And she's had a lot of experience. But at the same time, I did read somewhere that she contemplated retiring a while ago, which kind of makes you wonder. But at the same time, she's on her way up. She's ranked 7th in the division. But I dare say that depending on how this fight goes, depending on who wins it and in what fashion, you could see a title contender here.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be mad at it either. I know Sijara was almost there with her title shot, but that just didn't happen, and for a good reason. I was also one of those fans that was like, I don't think now is the right time for Sijara to get a title shot. But whoever wins between Roxanne and Sijara, I could definitely see it, and I believe that we have Valentina Shevchenko and Joanna Jędrzejczyk like next month, or is that in December? Yeah, so we're in November now. I just totally forgot. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who can get themselves to that spot, because I see Sijara Eubanks and Roxanne Modafferi as a title eliminator fight, and it'll be great for whoever the winner of Shevchenko and Jędrzejczyk is.
It's a good fight to have near the end of the prelims. I would have rather seen this as the last prelim, but instead we have 2 Southern submission specialists. Say that 10 times fast on the feature prelim. You got Jason Knight. Can't do it. You got Jason Knight, 20-5, taking on Jordan Rinaldi, who I get mixed up in my head for Calvin Kattar because they do look the same. And Rinaldi,
I swear, they look just alike.
Yeah, they do. It's so tough because Jason Knight, in my mind's eye, is a great, great fighter that could really quickly go up the ranks, but at the same time, he's lost 3 in a row. You look at it, Lamas, Gabriel Benitez, Makwan Amirkhani, who's looked good lately. And Rinaldi lost his last fight, and that one was at home, and it was the last time he fought. It was back in January, and there's 2 hometown guys that ended up losing on the main card there, and it didn't look good for the Carolinas. But yeah, Rinaldi taking on Gregor Gillespie, who I think is another one of those guys with his wrestling. He can move his way up to the top unless he takes on a great striker, but he looked good against Vince Pichel in his last fight. Won that one by TKO, Gillespie did. Laid him out flat on his back, and it was a back mount ground and pound, which is something that I love to watch. I mean, you look at Luke Rockhold, David Branch. I love it because typically people tap due to strikes, which we'll get into it, but Branch did. And yeah, I'm excited about this fight.
Yeah, me too. I was actually having some trouble picking this fight too, because with someone like Jason Knight, obviously he has a great ground game. His grappling is insane. That's why they call him Hick Diaz, which I totally understand why. And he also has some punching power. A lot of his strikes